So I was watching this No Thank You live stream. It's running right now, and I had a funny video idea, and I was like, "Hey, No Thank You, you should make this video," and then people were like, "Oh, you should make this video yourself." So this is the topic of today's video. The song "I'm Feeling a Bit Breathable Today" (IDK) by Acid Gvril. Okay, but it's not really a video about that, right? I think we all understand that it's never about one person. It's about the it's about anime breakcore as a genre, right? That's the point of the video, is to address the anime breakcore. It's to you know go over the allegations, so to speak. So we need to go back. We need to go back in time. So I don't know the exact timeline of this, but there were two things that were happening around the same time. First of all, Gorshit was combining more ambient soundscapes with breakcore, right? We know who Gorshit is, right? And what he was making a breakcore song, but putting like an ambient track over it. So then over on VK in Russia, what was happening was there was this guy named Wax, WAQS, right? And he was basically doing the same thing, but he was doing it in a different way. He was doing it in a very unique way that made people want to replicate it. So over in Russia, you had a bunch of people over time essentially make music that sounded like Wax. And basically the intersection between those two things, the space in between them, right, which is really the space in between like breakcore, drum and bass, and like jungle, right, somewhere in the middle of all of those things. That's depressive breakcore or anime breakcore, as we know right now, right? It's characterized by somewhat slower tempos, or not tempos. Um, I guess it's characterized by somewhat slower tempos than most other breakcore music, and the general sound of it is an ambient backing track, generally in like minor key to be all depressive and stuff. And when it comes to how the break itself is handled, the break essentially serves a role as to like fill as much room as possible. So instead of just having like super fast breaks that play on like half notes, you have slightly slower breaks that play on more quarter notes, right? Basically, that's the idea when it comes to depressive breakcore or anime breakcore or whatever you want to call it. So there was this indie scene, right? Essentially, that was just a bunch of people from Russia, a bunch of indie labels, just like a whole community of people who thought, hey, this type of breakcore is kind of really cool, right? It's not quite lollycore, right? But it's like anime and stuff. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And then Sewer Slut happened, right? You all know who Sewer Slut is. It's impossible to not know who Sewer Slut is, right? Sewer Slut was a music project, released like 7 albums, and basically made a watered down version of the same style, right? That's basically what Sewer Slut did. Instead of like, you know, um, adding on to what existed, what Sewer Slut did was basically went like, okay, I'm gonna polish off all of the rough edges, right? And the rough edges are pretty obvious if you listen to a lot of the earlier anime pre-core stuff. Like, Please Be Quiet is a really good example. I went through the entire discography of, not Please Be Quiet, Sorry About My Face, yeah. Sorry About My Face is a good example because I went through his entire discography um, a couple of weeks ago, and he has a very specific vision for what he wants his music to sound like, right? it's supposed to be essentially just kind of a drum and bassy ambient backing or instrumental track, and then the drums have a shit ton of trills, a really loud kick, and it has these specific features that define it. And when overused, they're very unpleasant, right? Not very unpleasant, they're just kind of hard to listen to. I'm sure some people are really into like the more experimental, fucking sorry about my face tunes. I'm personally not like the biggest fan. Like, I prefer his more like mainstream stuff, even though that's not true. If like, I don't know if it's true or not, but like, I go pretty deep into like all of these anime pre-core artists, and yeah, I don't know. I think at some point it can be too much, right? The specific stylistic hallmarks can be a bit overbearing when it comes to people who are making like actually creative music, and it's like a fine balance between making something interesting and making something listenable. And when it came to Sewer Slut, what Sewer Slut did was essentially just remove all of the interesting parts and just make the same type of music, but it's just as listenable as it could ever be. Now, if you want like actually super interesting stuff, 800 mg, as in milligrams, .bandcamp.com, that's Better of Dead's Bandcamp, and she has probably the most interesting breakcore catalog that I've listened to. It's pretty much just all gold, and yeah, like that to me is like probably the ideal for this genre of music. I think that's like it captures the essence of it all really well. Now, Wax obviously is the goat. No one's gonna say like Wax isn't the goat, but I think with Wax, right? If I tell you to go to Wax's Bandcamp, which is untitledexe.bandcamp.com, I think, pretty sure, you'll find like 150 albums, and a lot of them are just like noise, or it's genres I can't even really explain. And in that case, it becomes a bit harder to be like, oh yeah, go check Wax out, right? Because it's like, okay, go try to figure out how to listen to Wax, which is somewhat daunting. But yeah, essentially, like those are like this some of the like more important people in the scene. And what happened was there was essentially a clean break. Because since Zero Slut was like magnitudes bigger than any of the people that came previously, what happened was both people who got into the genre through Sewer Slut started going back to the older stuff that, sounds kind of like Sewer Slut. And a lot of the people also just didn't go back and went like, I wanna make breakcore music like Sewer Slut, right? I wanna do I wanna do anime breakcore, right? So Acid Girl is one of those examples. But before I get into Acid Girl, I wanna shout out this super great YouTube channel. Like actually yes here. Um I think it's a woman, so I'm just gonna use she, but she's called Scarmaid, and she has possibly, in my opinion, the best taste in anime pre-core of everyone ever. She has t- uh, these free mixes, and this one, this is probably the only breakcore mix on YouTube that's actually just like really fucking good. Like this, listening to this mix sent me on a fucking quest to dive deep into like the current generation of breakcore, because I kinda like had lost touch with like what's happening in the space, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go through all of these artists and see what they're up to. So I spent like a month doing that, I don't know if it was a month, but it was a long time. And she also has her own albums. So, Suicide Jungle and Life is Beautiful. These are also absolutely phenomenal albums. Like, these are great listens, front to back. You know, just listen to them. They're like phenomenal. They're not the best again, but Scarmaid is in a weird fucking spot because she knows who Waxy is, right? Like she just clearly does. Um, yeah, you have Wax here, but she's also like super in touch with basically the new generation of breakcore artists. And the interesting thing is the migration over from Bandcamp to SoundCloud, which I completely missed. Basically, all of the new breakcore artists that are like super interesting, they don't post on Bandcamp that much. They post mostly on SoundCloud and YouTube. So that's a big reason why I was like having a hard time figuring out like, oh, how do I find new music? But yeah. So now there's this like entire scene of like SoundCloud breakcore, and there's two sides of it. One side is so fucking boring. It's basically just drum and bass or like bad jungle, and it's still good. It's listenable. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh, you put Acid Girl on, or you put whoever fucking else. You put like I don't know. I'm not gonna diss Young Lane. Young Lane is putting in the fucking work. Like the rate at which he's making music that's consistently tolerable and consistently at least somewhat interesting puts him like above all of those people. But like someone like Acid Girl or Used Cunt, even the Used Cunt makes like super super good music. Oh, I'm gonna get demonetized for that word. Oh no, what will I do on YouTube.com where I'm definitely monetized? Anyway, with regards to those types of people who are just making like kind of super watered down breakcore, the thing that interests me is tying it back to these aesthetics, is connecting the dots essentially between Sewer Slut and the older generation of breakcore, right? Because if you look at the aesthetic of Sewer Slut's music, right, it has a specific vibe essentially, right? It has this kind of self-serious, like edgy, um, you know, it's like edgy, self-serious, but with a sense of humor about it, right? I guess that's like the best way to put it. It's like a bit anime, a bit glitch art, right? Um, it's its own thing, right? But if you go to Wax, because we're gonna go straight to the tap. We're gonna go straight to the tap on this. If you go to Wax, you can see how much like more eclectic it is, right? And if you go into, I don't know if this album has an example of that. Um, I mean, it kind of has, but not really. I'm just gonna try to find an album that has like, yes, you go into the discography of X, and you have Disappointed in Myself, Nobody Loves Me, Tears in My Eyes, Isolate Myself. Like those are the song titles essentially when it comes to the depressive breakcore stuff. I can't waste my time on whores when the successful career of the biggest loser who's trying to be a musician is waiting for me. Just stuff like that. Just essen- fuck. Essentially, just like stream of consciousness, um, kind of low effort, just a collection of stuff, without like any type of clear direction, no regard for like trying to, you know, market himself like in a super consistent way. And yeah, iconic album. I want to be dead, but I want to be dead. I think about sad things and want to die. Right, soul is crying, feel like dying, emotional pain. Like this is the song title format of X, and this has a very specific vibe. And you also see this when you look at Better of Dead, because what you end up finding, like if you go back, because let's not go that far back. Like let's go to OTC, Sleep Aids, right? Speaks for itself. But that one doesn't really have to have those titles. Yeah, sampling dissociative children and pretend I'm creative. And why as soon as I become so alone, I can't say goodbye, right? So these song titles are very clearly just like whatever the fuck she put into project name when she was thinking about how she felt at the time, right? It isn't built to be like an aesthetic. It's just basically a stream of consciousness of, whatever's going on. And that to me is the crucial distinction between like the more manicured style of someone like Sewer Slut, who's very clearly trying to be marketable, listenable, and so on and so on, and they just like kind of stream of consciousness. If it's good, just repeat, just kind of whatever. Let's make it an interesting experience style that like the previous anime breakcore people kind of had about it all. So why am I talking about this fucking song? Because I got recommended like a couple days ago, and I was like, okay, hold on a second. This wants to really badly be like a stream of consciousness, expression of self. But it's not expressing anything. It's just a tweet. Like this is just something. You know what you would do. You know what you would do. You'd go on twitter.com. You'd go on twitter.com, and you would type in, "I'm feeling a bit breathable today, IDK." That's what you would do. So this isn't something that you would like name a project file for a song. This is something that he would tweet out to act like it's like a stream of consciousness, organic moment of self-expression when he's very clearly trying to evoke a specific emotion that you aren't feeling, but you want someone to think you're feeling. So to me, this is recuperation. This is just playing off the aesthetics of something these people don't comprehend. Okay, I don't know how to fucking speak for more than 10 minutes. You think I make videos on this channel? You think I make videos? You should understand why I am disgusted by this shit, right? It's instead of being like, oh, let's just make Sewer Slut. They're like, oh, let's try to rip off the same people who Sewer Slut kinda sorta ripped off, and just do it in a way that's just completely pathetic. So this is what I don't like. This is what I don't like.